Hello, I'm Neil Creasy, and welcome to about 5 minutes of Scaling Scrum the safe way. Now, you're probably familiar with the standard Scrum diagram, and you're aware that there's a number of things which happen before a sprint or an iteration. There's a number of things which happen during the iteration, and then the things that happen towards the end as we get a potentially shippable product. Now, when we look at one iteration or sprint, it's typically followed by another, and then another, and then another. And this is how we iteratively deliver on a product. And we're showing here a 10-week cycle if these sprints are 2 weeks each. And we've got 4 sprints delivering product, and then we've got a special sprint at the end. And this 10-week time cycle, when we think of the Scaled Agile Framework, we can look at that same learning we've got with the way a sprint operates and consider the PI, which is a time period of 8 to 12 weeks, typically 10, as a big one of these. And when we look at the PI in this context, we recognize that there are things which happen before the PI starts, there are things which happen during the PI running, and there are things which happen towards the end. And one of the principal differences between these iterations and the PI is that the iterations are delivering a potential shippable product, but the PI will deliver a shippable product. So we organize our time to deliver something which is releasable within that time frame. Now, if you look at these aspects of the planning interval, we can actually group them. And the stuff which happens before is collectively referred to as PI planning. Then we've got a number of syncs which happen during the planning interval. There's special language which Scaled Agile Framework use. They call a coach sync is where the Scrum Masters get together in a Scrum type activity, a product owner sync, portfolio syncs, and a number of other things. Towards the end, we have a review and a retrospective type activity. It's called Inspect and Adapt, and it helps identify improvements we can make ready for the next planning interval. Because one planning interval is followed by another and another. Now remember the IP sprint. It was a very special sprint, the last one in the planning interval. And what we do, we call this an an innovation and planning sprint. And what it does, it inspects and adapts from the current PI. So it has a look at how well we've gone here, and it helps create the plan for the next PI as part of this develop on cadence approach. So every PI, we're actually getting a better, more comprehensive product by delivering additional features. Now, so far, we've only shown the work for a single team. So these are the iterations or sprints for one team. But in reality, there will be many teams all delivering towards the same outcome. And SAFe tells us when we've got 5 or more of these teams, we can group them. And we call this group an agile release train. And indeed, if we've got more than 120 people on the agile release train, we can add additional agile release trains, and when we can add them in parallel, or we can choose that they start at a later point in time, but always in sync with a PI boundary. Now, when we've got many of these agile release trains, we can even coordinate suppliers, internal and external, who are not operating in an agile way at these boundaries, and we can coordinate those with something we call a solution train. So that's a quick overview of how SAFe operates Scrum. And I'd like to just qualify that SAFe does not exclusively use Scrum. They call their version of Scrum Safe Scrum. And as you can see, the language is slightly different to Scrum as well. So if you found this useful, I do offer independent, cost-effective assistance with the Scaled Agile Framework in Australia. Thank you.